This is North Tulsa, Oklahoma. There's a clear distinction between Tulsa and North Tulsa. The two areas are separated by more than just 2 zip code numbers. In Tulsa, you'll see several universities, thriving businesses, restaurants, hotels. In North Tulsa, you'll see abandoned storefronts, roads with potholes, boarded up homes, empty churches. Economically, educationally, and socially, North Tulsa is under-resourced, and it's affected the community. In the middle of North Tulsa, on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, is a church, Crossover Bible Church. Crossover is led by Philip and Rhonda Linabode, who have implemented a transformational vision for the North Tulsa community through this church. Back in 2002, the Abodes went to seminary with a vision of planting a solid, Bible-teaching church in North Tulsa. And in 2006, when they came back, they planted Crossover.
So when we were leaving seminary, one of the questions floating around was that if your church were to close its doors, never to open them again, would anyone in your community notice? That really sat with me, and so our ministry team, when we were starting Crossover, we're like, we want to be the kind of church that our community notices.
At first, they thought, if we could just learn how to teach and preach God's word, our community will get tangibly better. But after a couple of years, it became clear it was going to take more than that. They began hosting events for the community, back-to-school bashes, neighborhood cleanups, anything they could do to show the community they cared. After a while, though, the reality of starting a new church caught up with them.
The inertia will drive you to Sunday mornings. And so that became our emphasis, and really how do we get people to show up on Sunday? And we really stopped doing the things in the beginning that we were doing to show the community that we cared.
Then came a football team. The community center where Crossover was meeting had a youth football program for local third graders. Philip and Crossover's other pastor volunteered to help coach. In their first year, the team won the championship. What Philip began to realize, though, was a much larger need beyond the field.
I realized it was bad in our community, but I didn't know it was that bad. Well, we're here with a group of third graders, and almost all of them are already failing in school. And we see these kids that are good kids, but we could tell, man, if he doesn't change his attitude, man, he's gonna end up in prison someday. We had 2 kids whose dads had already been murdered at that point. Several kids, their dads were in jail, uninvolved. And at that point, we're like, man, even if these kids never come to our church, it's like, man, we gotta find a way to help.
The 2 coaches began to intentionally disciple the boys on the team. They started talking about character at practice, tutoring them after school. Slowly, the families of these players began to let the coaches into their lives.
I had more conversations as Coach Philip than I got to have with folks as Pastor Philip.
About a year later, Bob Rowley, district superintendent of the EFCA Texas-Oklahoma district, sent out the Parish Paper, a monthly newsletter with practical ideas and insights for local churches. That month's focus? Should your church start a nonprofit?
So I read through that, and that's when I was like, man, we should start a separate nonprofit that could help us do even more than just one little football team.
In 2011, the Crossover team started their nonprofit, Crossover Community Impact, or CCI. They had a vision to revitalize the North Tulsa community, and this is how they're going to do it.
You can see it.
Before CCI started, North Tulsa residents were dying 14 years earlier than the rest of Tulsa. 14 years. Both from proximity and affordability standpoints, there just weren't realistic healthcare options for those in North Tulsa. At this point, CCI had started sports and after-school programs, and they were well aware of the need for healthcare reform, but the need was down the road. God had a different plan. Through a land swap with the local development company, CCI obtained a 10-acre plot of land in the middle of North Tulsa. On the edge of that land sat a small medical clinic. The doctor whose name was on the building had been ready to retire for a while, but he couldn't find anyone to take over his practice. When the land swap came up, he agreed to sell his practice to Crossover along with the land.
So the clinic went from being one of the last things we were going to do to one of the first things we were going to do, because now we had this building. One of our board members was a doctor, He's like, hey, I'm gonna retire. I'm gonna give you guys $50,000 to fix up this building. He's like, just pay me back, and I'll even work here at the clinic to get it up and running.
On April 7th, 2014, Crossover Health Services opened its doors. Now, 5 years later, the clinic has over 3,600 patients, all from North Tulsa. And that 14-year life expectancy gap, it's down to 10. Crossover has a policy. If you're a full-time staff member, you have to live in the community. No exceptions.
You know, when we say restoring our community, I mean, we mean that. And so it's like, you can't call this your community if you don't live here.
You develop a real passion for the community and the people. When you live here and you see the problems, those problems become your problems. It changes the conversation from them and they to us and we.
And the policy doesn't stop with the staff. Although it's not required, members of Crossover Bible are strongly encouraged to move into North Tulsa if they don't already live there.
Proximity is huge when it comes to relationships. And we believe that the gospel flows through relationships. And so if you can be in proximity with folks and be present in their lives, that gives you the opportunity to build relationships for the sake of the gospel. And so part of that was, hey, if a member, if a family wants to move, it's like, hey, we'll even fix up a house for you.
In 2015, Crossover Development Company was born, CCI's next extension into the North Tulsa community. As Crossover works to build, rebuild, and renovate, these new homes have begun to raise the value of the homes around them, and neighbors have started to notice.
It puts a smile on people's faces, like for real. I done really had some people come and like give me thumbs up, pat on the back, you know, like, hey, can you come do some work for my house, you know, because they see how much effort we putting into them and how good we making them look. It puts some hope, you know what I mean, in the future for the neighborhoods, and we trying to do that for this community.
What did his protein molecule structure look like?
Crossover had been tutoring kids after school, but they had a growing desire to create more of an educational influence in North Tulsa. See, North Tulsa graduates high schoolers at a rate of 46%, and only 15% of residents have a college degree. In 2017, they started Crossover Preparatory Academy, a tuition-free, all-boys school for kids grades 7 through 12.
To us, our students are so much more than a test score or a GPA. For us, if we graduate a young man and he's got good test scores, but he doesn't know who God is, he doesn't know what God wants for his life, then we failed. You know, if we graduate young men who are intelligent, but they're not godly, then that's a failure.
In the fall of 2017, Crossover Prep admitted its first class of 7th graders. Now, that class just finished 9th grade. 2 more classes have filled in underneath them, and enrollment has just been extended to 6th grade for the next school year.
You know, we have 60, 75 guys in a graduating class, and if we're graduating just dozens of guys every year who love the Lord, who love North Tulsa, who are educated and godly, the potential impact that will have on our community, just the generation of leaders that will be molded and crafted here, that's going to be a game changer for our community.
You know, the families at the school, it's like now they're hopeful that their kid is going to get a great education. They like the fact that they're hearing about God and that we're talking to these kids about Jesus. And so we got parents that are like hopeful that their son is going to learn to be a man now.
I really do like it here because the thing is that the teachers, like at my old school, I would do good, but I would have flaws, but they wouldn't point them out. But here, they helped me with it, so now my grades are flowing up, and my mom was shook. She was like, wow. And I was like, yeah, Mom, I didn't even know I had that kind of potential.
Even after the sports program, after-school program, medical clinic, housing development company, school, Crossover's plans aren't done. By 2020, Crossover hopes to add a community center, an all-girls school, sports complex, and residential housing development. The vision is to comprehensively revitalize all of North Tulsa.
And for a church to be at the center of that, you know, I really feel like, man, it's God's people are the key to communities like this, to come and join in with what he's already doing and to be strategic about it and to bring the resources that he's blessed us with to this community. It's been a real cool thing to see him work in that.
Just keep in mind that Nowhere in the Bible do you see a building called a church. So no, the church is the people.
This is our call as the Church of Christ. This is our call as followers of the one who became flesh and made his dwelling among us. The church can't just exist on Sunday mornings. We can't stay isolated. We need to go out and engage our communities.
You know, especially looking at North Tulsa, I mean, there are literally corners where there'll be a church on 3 of the 4 corners. And then you look at that and you're like, how is this community like this?
For the church to actually do this work, it's simple. You have to have love, and enough love, kind of like Paul, becoming all things to all men, that just means shifting up your culture a little bit. I mean, you still stay yourself, but you take a few steps that direction, and people put up with you, and they take steps your direction, and then God starts doing work.
And then even for churches that are like suburban churches, where it's like, no, the community around you is great. It's like, man, there's still brokenness there. It might not look like opening up a medical clinic, but it's stepping into the brokenness that's there in that community, and also looking around and it's like, man, where is there brokenness nearby? You know, where the churches are building multi-million-dollar facilities, and it's like, what if those resources got sent to communities that just didn't have members like that?
Like, use whatever it is that you have available to you as an opportunity to point people to Christ, and especially if it's an opportunity to develop the community too.
We can make a difference if we step outside of the 4 walls of our buildings and really engage in the brokenness that's there, and not expect people to come to us, but go to them. And so at one level, we wanted to say, no, the church matters.